What's going on, everybody? And in today's video we are discussing my bike setup and the bike setup guide, tutorial, whatever you want to call it. Before I say anything else, I just want to get this out of the way that skill and practice comes before the bike setup. At least I think it should. Let's say you're not a good player at the game, you're okay, and you want to get a bike setup going. You're not going to be going a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds quicker just by putting on the bike setup. You'd be lucky to go a few tenths quicker in a single lap. The bike setup in these MXGP games seems to not matter as much as they do in the Supercross games, and I think that is again the case in MXGP 2021. I messed around for a few hours, really testing out the bike setup, changing a bunch of different things on a couple different tracks and a few different bikes, and here is the bike setup that I found seemed to work the best for me. Now, I did make this setup for the Kawasaki 450, but then I tested it on the Gas 450 and it seemed to do the job just as well on that bike as it did on the Kawi. For the suspension in this game, I messed around with it a bunch, but I didn't really seem to notice too much of a difference when I played around with each individual bar. The one that seemed to make the most difference was the top one. I found that if you up that all the way to 10, it made the bike turn just a tiny bit better. But everything else, I didn't notice too much. I think when you change one bar at a time, you're not gonna notice any difference at all. You have to change about 5 or 6 bars to really get a different feel on the bike, because the bike setup in this game is very minor in my opinion. So I messed around with the suspension for a little while, and this was the best thing that I came up with. Again, it's all preference, so you may try this and you may absolutely hate it, which is totally understandable because the bike setup, it's all your own opinion. Everyone has their own, and it's whatever is the most comfortable for you and whichever one works the best. With the gear ratio in this game, you do not notice much of a difference at all between short, medium, and long, just on the default setting. But if you mess around with the bars, you will get a different feel on each bike. I think short gear ratio works the best, and I tuned it up just a touch here, as you can see. I think short and medium gear ratio are the better ones to go with. So I did a little test here. I went on the Gas 450 and I went on Belgium with the stock setup, and I threw on short gear ratio, went down a straightaway, looked at my top speed, then I threw on long, and it was pretty much the same top speed. So you're not going to be getting much of an advantage with the long gear ratio in this game. So I would just suggest to put on short or medium, because the acceleration is pretty powerful in this game and the top speed just isn't. With the brake response, I didn't notice too much of a difference when I changed this. You have an option between modular and aggressive. I just throw it on aggressive because I found that it kind of seemed to stop me a bit more. Coming to corners really hot or landing in a corner, it seemed to work a tiny bit better, I guess. But it is supposed to cause more lockups with your tires and cause you to crash, which I haven't really noticed. So I just throw it on aggressive, and I think that works pretty well. For accelerator mapping, I found that having it on aggressive made me kind of loop out and slide a bit more on the track everywhere. So I just leave it on modular, and I think it works a little bit better and it prevents you from making more mistakes, so I would just stick with that one. The wheelbase, I think that short seems to work the best, mainly because again, the straightaways on this game aren't very long, there isn't very many of them, and I noticed that having it on short helped me turn just a little bit better in the flat corners and also in the berms. It just makes the bike a bit more agile. Having it on long is supposed to prevent you from swapping out and losing control and shit like that, but I just found it made the bike a lot harder to turn, and so I just leave it on short. Medium is a good middle ground, but again, I think short is just the better of the three, so I would stick with that one. So there you have it, that's my bike setup. And by the way, in my fast lap video I did the other day on Autobiano, I basically ran a stock setup. So like I said, the skill and the speed all comes first, and the bike setup is just that cherry on top. So I would not even worry about a bike setup until you improve your skill set first. But if you want a decent bike setup, I suggest this one. I don't think this will work with every bike. I just made it mainly for the 450s, especially the Kawasaki's. So give it a try. Let me know what you think of it. So yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed, and take care.